How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, January 20th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances that took place yesterday on Wednesday, January 19th. Taking a quick step back and looking at where we are in the calendar year when it comes to these sports, the college basketball season is well underway as we are about a month into conference schedules. And also taking a look at what's going on at the professional levels, the NFL has, at the moment, 8 teams left competing for the Super Bowl as the first 2 matchups from the divisional round will take place on Saturday. The NBA is entering the second half of its season as well as the soccer schedule overseas. And then continuing on the soccer schedule, the African Cup of Nations is still in its group stage as teams are playing their last games to determine which 16 teams will advance to the knockout stages. With that said, starting with college basketball here in the States, looking at the top 25 teams that actually played yesterday. Looking at the second-ranked team in the nation, the Auburn Tigers hosted the unranked Georgia Bulldogs. Auburn would beat Georgia 83-60. They won this matchup by 23 after they outscored Georgia by 25 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the Tigers were led in scoring by their starting forward, Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler would go on to finish with 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 blocks in 27 minutes. He shot 7 for 11 from the field and 1 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the second-ranked Auburn Tigers are 7-1. They are 6-0 in the SEC right now. They are the only team in the SEC that is still undefeated in conference play. With this loss, the unranked Georgia Bulldogs are now 5-13. They are 0-5 in the SEC, still looking to pick up their first conference win. Looking at the 11th ranked team in the nation, the Villanova Wildcats hosted the unranked Marquette Golden Eagles. Marquette would upset 11th ranked Villanova, winning this one 57-54 after they outscored Villanova in both halves. On the losing end of this matchup, the 11th ranked Villanova Wildcats were led in scoring by their starting forward, Eric Dixon, out of Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. He will go on to finish with 15 points and 5 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the unranked Marquette Golden Eagles were led in scoring by their starting forward, Justin Lewis, their freshman out of Baltimore. He will go on to finish with 21 points and 7 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 16 from the field and 5 for 8 from 3. With this win, the unranked Marquette Golden Eagles are now 3-6. They are now 5-3 in the Big East. With this loss, the 11th ranked Villanova Wildcats are now 13-5. They are now 6-2 in the conference for right now. Taking a look at what's going on with the 12th ranked team in the nation, the Kentucky Wildcats would go to Texas A&M and face off against the Aggies. The Wildcats would beat the Aggies 64-58. They won this matchup by 6 after they outscored Texas A&M by 11 in the second half to overcome their 5-point deficit at halftime. On the winning end of this matchup, the 12th ranked Kentucky Wildcats were led in scoring by their starting guard, Severe Wheeler, out of Houston, Texas. He will go on to finish with 12 points in 8 turnovers in 32 minutes. He shot 5 for 8 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from 3. With this win, the 12th ranked Kentucky Wildcats are 15-3. They are now 5-1 in the SEC. With this loss, the unranked Texas A&M Aggies are now 15-3. They are now 4-1 in the SEC as Kentucky gave them their very first loss in the conference. Looking at the 13th team in the nation, staying within the SEC, the LSU Tigers would go to Tuscaloosa to face off against the unranked Alabama Crimson Tide. In this rivalry matchup, Alabama would beat LSU 70-67 after they outscored LSU just slightly in both halves. On the losing end of this matchup, the 13th ranked LSU Tigers were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Tari Eason, out of LA. He would go on to finish with 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 steals, as well as 2 blocks in 31 minutes. He shot 9 for 13 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the Alabama Crimson Tide were led in scoring by their starting guard, their starting guard Jaden Shackelford out of California. He will go on to finish with 26 points and 4 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field, and he shot 9 for 11 from the foul line. With this win, the unranked Alabama Crimson Tide are now 12-6. They are now 3-3 in the SEC. With this loss, the 13th ranked LSU Tigers are now 15-3. They are also 3-3 in the SEC. And then last but not least, looking at the 20th ranked team in the nation, the Xavier Musketeers would go to Chicago to face off against the unranked DePaul Blue Demons. Xavier would beat DePaul 68-67. They won this matchup by 1 after they outscored DePaul by 3 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 20th ranked Xavier Musketeers were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Jack Nunge out of Indiana. He would go on to finish with 23 points and 6 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and he shot 7 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the 20th ranked Xavier Musketeers are 14-3. They are now 4-2 in the Big East. With this loss, the unranked DePaul Blue Demons are now 10-7, and they are now 1-6 in the Big East, as they are not holding the worst record in the conference as of right now. But that's what college basketball is looking like following yesterday's matchups. Taking a look at what's going on today, the first ranked opponent is going to be playing at 5. The 21st ranked Providence Friars are going to host the unranked Georgetown Hoyas on FS1. Providence enters this matchup with a 4-1 record in the Big East. At 7 o'clock, the 4th-ranked Purdue Boilermakers are going to go to Bloomington to face off against the unranked Indiana Hoosiers. Purdue enters this matchup with a 4-2 record. This will be on FS1. At 7:30, the 16th-ranked USC Trojans are going to face off against the unranked Colorado Buffaloes in Boulder, Colorado. This matchup is going to be on Pac-12 Network, as USC holds a 4-12 record in the Pac-12 alongside Colorado. At 9 o'clock, the 25th-ranked UConn Huskies are going to go to Butler to face off against the Bulldogs in Indianapolis. That matchup will be on FS1 at 9 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, the top-ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs are going to host the unranked San Francisco Dons in the McCarthy Athletic Center. Gonzaga enters this matchup with a 3-0 record in the West Coast Conference. At the same time, at 11, the 3rd-ranked Arizona Wildcats are going to go to Palo Alto to face off against the unranked Sanford Cardinal. Arizona enters this matchup with a 4-0 record in the Pac-12. And then last but not least, at the same time, the 9th-ranked UCLA Bruins are going to face off against the unranked Utah Utes in Salt Lake City. But those are the ranked matchups that are taking place in college basketball. Sipping over football for the time being, because there's no football in the immediate, there's no football that's immediate at the moment. Taking a look at what went down in the NBA, starting off in Philadelphia, the 76ers hosted the Orlando Magic. The 76ers would beat the Magic 123-110. The Sixers would win this matchup by 13 after they outscored the Magic by 24 in the third quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Orlando Magic were led in scoring by their starting center out of Texas. Mo Bamba finished with 32 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists, as well as 3 blocks, as he fouled out in 30 minutes. Bamba shot 12 for 15 from the field, 7 for 8 from 3, and he shot 1 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Philadelphia 76ers were led in scoring by their elite starting center out of Kansas, Joel Embiid. Embiid finished with 50 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 blocks in 27 minutes. 50 points in 27 minutes. Insane. He would shoot 17 for 23 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and he would shoot 15 for 17 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Tobias Harris, finished with 21 points and 2 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field, and he shot 4 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 26-18. That is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They sit 2.5 games behind the top seed Chicago Bulls. With this loss, the Orlando Magic are now 8-38. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference and the worst record in the NBA, as they are the only team left that at this moment still has a single-digit amount of wins. They've lost their last 3 games. They've lost 9 of their last 10. They currently sit 15.5 games behind the 8 seed Washington Wizards outside of the playoff picture out east. Taking a look at what went down in our nation's capital, the Washington Wizards hosted the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets would beat the Wizards 119 to 118 after the Nets outscored the Wizards by 12 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Wizards were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Florida, Bradley Beal. Beal finished with 23 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and 6 for 8 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Brooklyn Nets were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard out of Duke, Kyrie Irving. Irving finished with 30 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 13 for 23 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their center off the bench, LaMarcus Aldridge, finished with 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 32 minutes. He shot 11 for 15 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their elite starting shooting guard, James Harden, finished with 18 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, and 8 turnovers in 39 minutes. Harden shot 7 for 21 from the field and 4 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are now 28-16. That is the third best record in the Eastern Conference. They have won 5 of their last 10 games as they sit half a game behind the Eastern Conference leading Chicago Bulls. With this loss, the Washington Wizards are now 23-22. That is the 8th best record in the East as they've lost 5 of their last 10 games. They sit 6 games behind the first seed Chicago Bulls. Taking a look at what went down in Atlanta, the Hawks hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Atlanta Hawks would beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 134 to 122. They won this matchup by 12 after they outscored the Wolves by 25 in the third. On the losing end of this matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves were led in scoring by their starting point guard out of Ohio State, D'Angelo Russell. Russell finished with 31 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds, and 2 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field, 5 for 13 from 3, and 6 for 9 from the foul line. Their elite starting small forward out of Georgia, who's from the city of Atlanta, Anthony Edwards, finished with 20 points and 5 rebounds in 24 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their elite starting center, Karl Anthony Towns, finished with 17 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals as he fouled out in 34 minutes. Karl Anthony Towns shot 6 for 13 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Trae Young. Young finished with 37 points, 5 rebounds, 14 assists, and 5 turnovers in 36 minutes. He shot 10 for 17 from the field, 6 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 11 for 11 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, DeAndre Hunter, finished with 22 points and 5 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and he made one of his 2 free throws on the night. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are now 19-25. That is the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 4 of their last 10. They currently sit 3.5 games behind the 8th seed Washington Wizards out east. With this loss, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 22-23. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference as they are tied with the LA Lakers. They've lost 4 of their last 10 as they now sit 13 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. Taking a look now at what went down in Boston, the Celtics hosted the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets would end up beating the Celtics 111-112. They won this matchup by 9 after they outscored the Celtics by 10 in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Boston Celtics were led in scoring by their starting point guard out of Germany, Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder finished with 24 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals, all in 37 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt of the night. Their starting shooting guard, Jalen Brown, finished with 21 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 20 from the field and 1 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting center, Al Horford, finished with 13 points and 10 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 5 for 7 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt. And their elite starting small forward out of Duke, Jason Tatum, finished with 12 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 5 fouls in 35 minutes. Tatum shot 5 for 19 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Charlotte Hornets were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Terry Rozier. Rozier finished with 28 points and 10 assists in 41 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Miles Bridges, finished with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists in 34 minutes as he shot 9 for 17 from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. The Hornets' elite starting point guard in last year's Rookie of the Year, LaMelo Ball, would finish with 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, as well as 8 turnovers in 32 minutes. Ball shot 5 for 15 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. And with this win, the Charlotte Hornets are now 25-20. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They won their last 2 games. They've won 7 of their last 10. They sit 4 games behind the Eastern Conference leaders, the Chicago Bulls. With this loss, the Boston Celtics are now 23-23. That is the 9th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 4 of their last 10 games. They sit half a game behind the 8th seed Washington Wizards outside of the playoff picture. Taking a look at what went down in Miami, the Heat hosted the Portland Trailblazers. The Miami Heat would beat the Portland Trailblazers 104-92. They won this matchup by 14 after they outscored. They won this matchup by 12 after they outscored the Portland Trailblazers by 14 in the fourth quarter in order to come up with this win. On the losing end of this matchup, the Portland Trailblazers were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Anthony Simons. He finished with 27 points and 7 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 18 from the field, 6 for 14 from 3, and he shot 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum, finished with 24 points and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 10 for 20 from the field and 4 for 9 from 3. Their starting center, Yusuf Nurkic, finished with 18 points and 14 rebounds in their 28 minutes as he shot 6 for 10 from the field and 6 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Robert Covington, finished with 11 points and 12 rebounds in 38 minutes. He shot 3 for 11 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Miami Heat were led in scoring by their small forward off the bench, Caleb Martin. Martin finished with 26 points and 8 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and he shot a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. Their starting center, Bam Adebayo, finished with 20 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 steals, and 3 blocks in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field, and their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, would finish with 4 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists in 15 minutes as he got ejected after a heated disagreement with the refs. With this win, the Miami Heat are now 29-16. That is the second best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won one more game and won one less game, and they've won one more game and they've lost one more game than the Chicago Bulls. So they sit even with the Bulls, even though the Bulls have a better win percentage. The Heat have won their last 2 games. They've won 7 of their last 10. And alongside the Chicago Bulls, they sit half a game ahead of the 3rd seed Brooklyn Nets, just to show you how close the top 3 is out east. With this loss, the Portland Trailblazers are 18-26. That is the 10th best record in the Western Conference. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games. They sit 3.5 games behind the 8th seed Los Angeles Lakers and the 7th seed Minnesota Timberwolves, as a matter of fact, just to get a sense where they are. Taking a look at what's going on in Chicago, speaking of the best team out east, the Bulls hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Bulls beat the Cavaliers 117-104. The Bulls won this matchup by 13 after they outscored the Cavs by 14 in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Cavaliers were led in scoring by their starting power forward out of Arizona, Lauri Markkanen. Markkanen finished with 28 points and 7 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot 9 for 14 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting point guard out of Vanderbilt, Darius Garland, finished with 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 12 assists in 40 minutes. He shot 9 for 18 from the field, and he would shoot 1 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Chicago Bulls were led in scoring by their starting small forward out of USC, DeMar DeRozan. The former Toronto Raptor finished with 30 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 blocks in 36 minutes. He shot 14 for 24 from the field, and he would go on to shoot 2 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting center and former All-Star Nikola Vucevic finished with 24 points and 12 rebounds in 37 minutes. Vucevic would go on to shoot 11 for 21 from the field. And with this win, the Chicago Bulls are now 28-15. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference off of win percentage alone, because they have one less win and one less loss than the Miami Heat. The Bulls have won 5 of their last 10 games, and alongside the Miami Heat, they sit half a game ahead of the 3rd seed Brooklyn Nets, just to show how close that top is once again. With this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 27-19. That is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 3 of their last 10 games. They sit 2.5 games behind the 1st seed Chicago Bulls for the conference. Taking a look at what's going down in Milwaukee, the defending NBA champs, Milwaukee Bucks, hosted the Memphis Grizzlies. The Bucks would beat the Grizzlies 126-114. They won this matchup by 12 after they outscored the Grizzlies by a combined 14 points in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Memphis Grizzlies were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard out of Murray State, John Morant. Morant finished with 33 points, 8 rebounds, and 14 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 12 for 27 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and he shot a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting power forward out of Michigan State, Jaren Jackson Jr., finished with 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 blocks in 31 minutes. He shot 9 for 20 from the field, and he would go on to shoot 9 for 10 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks were led in scoring by their elite starting power forward, the defending NBA Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Antetokounmpo finished with 33 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 5 turnovers as he fouled out in 31 minutes. He shot 12 for 25 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting small forward and former All-Star Chris Middleton finished with 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field, and he would shoot a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 28-19. That is the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 4 of their last 10 games. They sit 2 games behind the first place Chicago Bulls out east. With this loss, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 31-16. That is the 3rd best record in the Western Conference, as they've lost 2 of their last 10 games. They sit 5 games behind the 1st seed Phoenix Suns in the conference. Taking a look at what's going on in Dallas, Texas, the Mavericks hosted the Toronto Raptors from up north. The Mavericks would beat the Raptors 102-98. They won this matchup by 4 after they outscored Toronto by a combined 11 points in the middle 2 quarters. On the losing end of this matchup, the Raptors were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Pascal Siakam. Siakam finished with 20 points, 8 rebounds, 3 steals, and 5 turnovers in 44 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field and 6 for 8 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Dallas Mavericks were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Luka Doncic. Doncic finished with 41 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists in 42 minutes. As the first team All-NBA guard, shot 13 for 24 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and he shot 11 for 12 from the foul line. With this win, the Dallas Mavericks are now 26-19. That is the 5th best record in the Western Conference, as they've now won their last 4 games. They are now tied with the Phoenix Suns for the best winning streak in the Western Conference and for the NBA for that matter. The Mavericks have won 9 of their last 10 games. They sit 9 games behind the 1st seed Phoenix Suns out west. With this loss, the Toronto Raptors are 21-21. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 4 of their last 10. They sit half a game behind the 8th seed Washington Wizards for the conference, just to get a sense of how close it is right there. Staying within the state of Texas, the San Antonio Spurs hosted the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Spurs would beat the Thunder 118-96. The Spurs won this matchup by 22 after they went on to outscore the Thunder by 10 in the first quarter, 9 in the second quarter, and by another 10 in the third quarter, putting up a 28-point deficit for the Thunder to have to build back from at the beginning of the fourth. On the losing end of this matchup, the Thunder were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Aaron Wiggins, out of Maryland. Wiggins would go on to finish with 19 points and 8 rebounds in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 11 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the San Antonio Spurs were led in scoring by their starting point guard, DeJounte Murray. Murray finished with 23 points, 10 rebounds, 14 assists, and 3 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 11 for 20 from the field. Their starting small forward out of Creighton, Doug McDermott, finished with 20 points in 21 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field and 6 for 9 from 3. With this win, the San Antonio Spurs are now 17-28. That is the 4th worst record in the Western Conference. They've won 3 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 5 games behind the 8th seed Los Angeles Lakers for the time being. Very rare to see a Western Conference where the Lakers or Spurs aren't really dominating, but I guess that's the NBA right now. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 14-30. That is the 2nd worst record in the Western Conference. They've lost their last 3 games. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They currently sit 7.5 games behind the 8th seed LA Lakers out west. Taking a look at what's going down in Utah, Salt Lake City, the Jazz hosted the Houston Rockets. The Rockets were able to beat the Jazz 116-111. The Rockets won this matchup by 5 after they outscored the Jazz by a combined 10 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Jazz were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Bojan Bogdanovic. Bogdanovic would finish with 29 points and 5 rebounds in 37 minutes. He shot 11 for 27 from the field, and he would shoot a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Their elite starting center out of France, Rudy Gobert, would finish with 23 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 37 minutes. Gobert would go on to shoot 9 for 13 from the field and 5 for 7 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Houston Rockets were led in scoring by their shooting guard off the bench, Garrison Matthews. Matthews finished with 23 points and 2 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 5 for 10 from the field. All of his made field goals came from 3, as he was 5 for 9 from 3. He shot 8 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting center, Christian Wood, finished with 13 points, 15 rebounds as well in 32 minutes, as he shot 5 for 12 from the field and 3 for 6 from 3. With this win, the Houston Rockets are now 14-32. That is the worst record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 4 of their last 10. They sit 8.5 games behind the 8th seed Los Angeles Lakers out west. With this loss, the Utah Jazz are now 29-16. That is the 4th best record in the Western Conference. They've lost their last 2 games. They've lost 7 of their last 10. They sit 6 games behind the 1st seed Phoenix Suns out west. Taking a look at what's going on in Denver, just one state over, the Nuggets hosted the LA Clippers, and the Nuggets would beat the Clippers 130-128 after outscoring the Clippers 16-14 in overtime. On the losing end of this matchup, the LA Clippers were led in scoring by their starting center, Ivica Zubac. Zubac finished with 32 points and 10 rebounds in 37 minutes. He shot 15 for 19 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Reggie Jackson, finished with 28 points and 12 assists in 38 minutes, as he shot 12 for 22 from the field and 1 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Denver Nuggets were led in scoring by their elite starting center and last year's MVP, Nikola Jokic. Jokic finished with 49 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals, and 5 turnovers in 41 minutes. Jokic would go on to shoot 16 for 25 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 14 for 16 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Aaron Gordon, finished with 28 points and 2 steals in 44 minutes. He shot 10 for 16 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Denver Nuggets are now 23-20. That is the 6th best record in the Western Conference. They've won 6 of their last 10. They now sit 11 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. With this loss, the LA Clippers are now 22-24. That is the 9th best record in the West. They've lost 6 of their last 10. They sit half a game behind their LA neighbors, their roommates actually, the LA Lakers. Taking a look at what's going on in Sacramento, the Kings hosted the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons would go on to beat the Kings 133-131. Pistons won this matchup by 2 after they outscored the Kings by 7 in the first and third quarters each. On the losing end of this matchup, the Sacramento Kings were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Terrence Davis. Davis would finish with 35 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists in 38 minutes as he shot 11 for 23 from the field, 7 for 13 from 3, and he shot 6 for 7 from the foul line. Their starting point guard out of Kentucky, De'Aaron Fox, finished with 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists in 37 minutes. He would go on to shoot 10 for 20 from the field and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting small forward out of UNC, Harrison Barnes, finished with 20 points in 34 minutes. He shot 4 for 10 from the field, and he would shoot 11 for 14 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Detroit Pistons would be led in scoring by their starting small forward, Saddiq Bey, out of Villanova. Bey finished with 30 points and 7 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and he shot a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their power forward off the bench, Kelly Olynyk, finished with 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists in 22 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Detroit Pistons are now 11-33. That is the second worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they've won 5 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 11.5 games behind the 8th seed Washington Wizards outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture. With this loss, the Sacramento Kings are now 18-29. That is the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. They sit 5 games behind the 8th seed Los Angeles Lakers out west. Taking a look at what's going on in the Crypto.com arena, last but not least, the LA Lakers hosted the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers would beat the Lakers 111-104. The Pacers won this matchup by 7 after outscoring the Lakers by 11 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Lakers would be led in scoring by their goated starting point guard, LeBron James. LeBron finished with 30 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 11 for 22 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and 5 for 7 from the foul line. Their shooting guard off the bench, Talen Horton-Tucker, finished with 20 points, 7 assists, and 2 blocks, and he would do all of this in 25 minutes. He shot 9 for 14 from the field and 2 for 5 from 3. Their goated starting point guard, Russell Westbrook, the NBA's all-time leader in triple-doubles, would finish with 14 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists in 27 minutes. He shot 5 for 17 from the field and 4 for 6 from the foul line. Not to mention LeBron also was able to gather his 10,000th rebound last night as well, of course, pushing up the longevity stats. Congrats to him. On the winning end of this matchup, the Indiana Pacers were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Caris LeVert. LeVert finished with 30 points and 8 rebounds in 27 minutes. He shot 12 for 16 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting power forward out of Gonzaga, Domantas Sabonis, would finish with 20 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 9 for 12 from the field, a perfect 2 for 2 from 3 as well. And with this win, the Indiana Pacers are now 16-29. That is the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 2 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 7 games behind the 8th seed Washington Wizards out east. With this loss, the Los Angeles Lakers are now 22-23. They are tied with the Minnesota Timberwolves for the 7th best record in the Western Conference, as they've lost 5 of their last 10 games. They sit 13 games behind the 1st seed Phoenix Suns out in the Western Conference, and that's how it currently sits. So that is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's matchups, and then taking a look at what's going on today. On Thursday, starting off with the primetime matchups, the Dallas Mavericks, who are currently holding the 5th best record in the West, are going to host the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns, looking to end the Suns' run of being the lone team with a single-digit amount of losses. That game's going to be on TNT in the American Airlines Center. And then following that matchup on TNT, the 2nd seed in the West, Golden State Warriors, are going to host the Indiana Pacers, who hold the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. The Warriors, of course, a win here could see them move a little bit closer to the Suns, who have been surging hot. They've been sun hot. And then looking at the game that isn't on prime time at 7:30, the New York Knicks are going to host the New Orleans Pelicans in Madison Square Garden. As I imagine, that was supposed to be a nice reunion scheduled for RJ and Zion, but of course, Zion still needs his time to come back. So that's what I have for you for the NBA. Taking a look at what's going on in the world of soccer, starting off with the African Cup, of course, Egypt was able to beat Sudan 1-0 with their lone goal coming from Abdelmanem. With this win, Egypt is now sitting second in their table, as Nigeria beating Guinea-Bissau would cement Nigeria being on the very top of their table. Their 2 goals would come from Sadiq Umar in the 56th minute and William Troost Ekong in the 75th. So far, they're the lone team that has won all 4 of their matchups in group stage, and they are the only team that is able to. So Nigeria is going to come into this knockout stage with a bit of an edge, but of course, they can't let it get them down. And at the same time, taking a look at what else is going on in the world of soccer outside of Africa, jumping to the Premier League, Tottenham went to Leicester City and was able to pull off a 3-2 win after Harry Kane would even it up at 1 in the first half. Leicester would break the tie with a 76-minute goal from James Maddison. Tottenham Hotspur would tie the game up in the 95th minute with a goal from Steven Bergwijn. And Steven Bergwijn would score another goal in the 97th minute to put Tottenham up by 2 goals in the final 2 minutes in order to give them 3 points in the table. With this win, Tottenham is now sitting 5th in the Premier League as they sit 1 point below West Ham with 3 less games played than West Ham, as they do have potential to shake things up in this table, as they alongside Leicester City have played the least amount of games in the table. With this loss, Leicester City now sits 10th in the table, as they are currently sitting 10 points behind 6th place Arsenal for the time being. Taking a look at what went down in Brentford, they hosted Manchester United. Manchester United would beat Brentford 3-1. No one would score in the first half. Manchester United would open the scoring with an Anthony Elanga goal in the 55th minute. They would get a second goal from their young elite English forward Mason Greenwood in the 62nd minute. And then after Marcus Rashford, their elite English forward, would score in the 77th minute, Brentford would score their lone goal of the game. With this win, Manchester United is currently sitting in the 7th spot in the Premier League, as they have the same amount of points as Arsenal, but they've played one more match than Arsenal, and Arsenal has a better point differential, but a win was very big and definitely needed for Manchester United at this stage. Looking at the Spanish Copa del Rey round of 16 matchup, Atletico Madrid ended up falling short to Real Sociedad, so they will not advance to the Copa del Rey quarterfinals. Sociedad's 2 goals came from Adnan Januzaj in the 33rd minute and Alexander Sorloth in the 47th minute. So congrats to Sociedad to making it through. And in the German DFB Pokal, RB Leipzig would make it past Hansa Rostock, as they will be the biggest German team going on to the next round after Dortmund got eliminated. In the Italian Coppa Italia, Inter Milan, the reigning Serie A champs, would host Empoli in the round of 16 matchup. They would pull off a round of 16 win in extra time, as they would have to send it in the extra time of the 91st minute, thanks to a goal from Andrea Ranocchia. And then Stefano Sensi would score in the 104th minute to put Inter through and get them into the next round, as they are still kicking and breathing. Taking a look at what went down in the French Ligue 1, the reigning Ligue 1 champs, Lille, were able to beat Lorient 3-1. Their first goal came from Isaac Lihaji, as he scored in the 10th minute. And then after a Lorient own goal, Lille would score their 3rd goal in the 30th minute, as that would put them above and beyond just that early on. With this win, Lille is now sitting 8th in the Ligue 1, as they are currently sitting 2 points behind 5th place, as that portion of the French table is starting to get close, but Lille is in a win now mode, and that win was a very important win for them. Now taking a look at what's going on today, looking at today's matchups, starting off with the African Cup of Nations. We are in the final day of group stage matches. Looking at the final Group E matches, Ivory Coast is going to face off against Algeria, as Ivory Coast sits at the very top. of the table. Equatorial Guinea will face off against Sierra Leone because they have 3 and 2 points. The winner will, of course, have a very big advantage. So both teams are in win now mode for if they want to stay alive. And looking at Group F, the Group F leaders, Gambia, are going to host Tunisia, as a win from Gambia would advance them through. And Mali's going to force Mauritania, as a win from Mali would cement their advance into the round of 16. And then, of course, once all of the group stage matchups are done, I'm going to come back with a preview for the round of 16 on the day of. And with that said, advancing to the other matchups that are going on, looking at the English Carabao Cup, the second leg of the semifinal versus Arsenal and Liverpool is going to take place in London, as Arsenal is going to host Liverpool. The winner of this matchup will face off against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final. Liverpool, of course, playing in this matchup without their 2 best players, Sadio Mane and Mo Salah, who, of course, are playing in the African Cup of Nations. Taking a look at what's going on in the Spanish Copa del Rey, this being the round of 16, Elche is going to host Real Madrid. Athletic Bilbao is going to host Barcelona. The Real Madrid game is going to be at 1, and the Barcelona game is going to be at 3:30. Of course, Spain knows how to schedule their soccer games. And then looking at the Italian Coppa Italia round of 16 matchup, AS Roma is going to host Lecce, as the winner of this matchup will, of course, advance to the quarterfinals, because that's how round of 16s work. And that is everything that I have for you for today. And first, I want to say that once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I want to come back tomorrow on Friday, January 21st for another episode. So until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank the ESPN, NCAA, NBA, NFL, and FIFA websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed in order to do this episode. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. And with that said, I apologize if I did butcher any of the names. I do plan on getting better with them over time. And with that said, I want to thank everyone once and for all for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode tomorrow once all of today's exhibitions are done. Thanks for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and peace out.